yes, I heard you guys on your last episode talking about Buffalo and how you have to incentivize contracts with a little bit more financial stability to get players to go there.
Yeah.
How much does geography play into it in the NHL? Because with most of the teams in Canada, where we know that the tax rate can be a little bit higher than some of our US-based organizations, how does that kind of affect player decision making?
Before we get into sorry, Juju, to cut you off, but before we get into decision making, I'll let Cack explain the little tax thing, because there's a little bit of a facade when it comes to taxes.
Oh man, I wish I knew.
It's confusing.
Taxes and financial stability, stonks. What are we doing here, guys? Are we turning into a financial based podcast?
I don't know. I don't know what happened.
Before Cack goes, to answer your question initially, I do think there is a little bit of a part that plays into it, because it's been talked about on Canadian radio stations up here with the Raptors. You know, there was a picture going around with Fred VanVleet pulling up in flip-flops and his Ferrari and shorts. And they're like, well, you know, they have to come back eventually. But you got to think during this time period, you know, someone like Kawhi, who was from San Diego, California, he was like, man, I just want to wear flip-flops all day and I don't want to have to deal with this. Like, it can play a part, but I think with hockey and the NHL, it's a little bit different, because playing in a Canadian market, even if you're in Ottawa or in Calgary or Winnipeg, where guys hate to be, you know, it's a Canadian market. If you want the attention and you want the loyalness of fans and stuff like that, you play in a Canadian market. But when it comes to money, like Steven Stamkos a couple of years ago, Toronto boy, had a chance to leave Tampa Bay and came to Toronto, but it scared him. All the money, all the sponsors being thrown at him, like he couldn't go grocery shopping, you know, it turned him away. So
exactly.
It almost doesn't have to do with the weather as much as the attention you're going to get.
Yeah.
So you don't see a potential paradigm shift? Like, for example, Tampa Bay is one of the more popular organizations in the NHL.
Yeah.
And obviously they're the reigning Stanley Cup champion as it sits here today. They're up there in the standings from what I can read as well.
They've been up there for years. Yeah. I do think
Florida, no state income tax, all this great stuff. Yeah. Beautiful weather.
I think
could there be a paradigm shift?
I think so. I think there's a little bit, but I just think hockey's got such a strong background in the northeastern parts of the US, like Minnesota, New York, Boston, like cold areas where I don't think it has as much. I think, don't get me wrong, I think there will be a shift eventually as new generations come in with guys who just like to sit and play Fortnite and want to be outside all the time and not worry about where they live, I guess. But I would say there will be a little bit of a shift, but not at the speed we're seeing in the NBA or anything like that.
Yeah. And Gio, to your point about like Canada is the market you want to be in when it comes to hockey. Toronto itself is the hub, I would say, for hockey in general. So I would think a lot of the people, maybe aside from people, you know, the rare occurrences of Austin Matthews, for example, I would say most people grew up probably in an area where it was there's snow on the ground. So, I mean, for me, like I would love, like I've said it for years, I would love to move somewhere and live beside a beach. And just do my job from there, for example. Would I actually do it? I don't know. Like I love it here, but you know, it makes a difference. And also Gio sort of made a point saying like people, you know, it's not as big of a thing for them to play in Toronto. Like it depends how famous you want to be. No. Like Gio said, like Stamkos is Cack's going. He's lost his mind.
I had it and then I lost it.
Got the Book of Mormon pulled up there. What is that?
I had it and then I lost it. Fuck. Keep going.
So did I. I had it and then I lost it too because you had it and then you lost it. Anyway, I was just gonna say, it depends how famous you want to be. Someone like Austin Matthews, like, you know, William Nylander, those kinds of players, they seem to like the clout, if you will. They like the attention, the stardom. They want to be like a celebrity. If you look at people like Joe Thornton, who just, you know, he played for San Jose for years and years. You know, he's walking around grocery stores. People probably don't really recognize him. Comes back to Toronto, he's like a national hero here. So it just depends. It really just depends what you want and, you know, what you're feeling like. If you want to be a star, you can come back home, deal with the snow, and you're going to be taken care of for the rest of your life. If you just want to, you know, relax by the ocean or stay in some lukewarm weather, then I mean, I think some players would choose that. I don't think it has as much sway in terms of the taxes. We broke it down. Cack will break it down for you.
I don't know what Cack's going to say about the taxes, but I hope that answers your question somewhat.
Yeah, and what I'll say just off the top before he gets into it is it's not as impactful as it may seem right off the like to the naked eye, or maybe to someone who's not very versed in the finance or the tax sort of sector.
Just the NHL in general.
or the NHL. But there are remedies for Canadian hockey players to create a separate sort of account and bypass a lot of their taxes. So I'll let Cack get into it a little more.
Well, before I get into that, I'm just going to say we knew a guy that was an NHL prospect and drafted by Annie's Anaheim Ducks. Didn't play a sniff in the regular season, but did in the preseason. And we grew up together, and we were both Montreal Canadiens fans. And I said to him, we both grew up passionate Montreal Canadiens fans. Would you ever sign there? And at the time, Montreal wasn't doing that well. And he said, not really. And I said, well, why is that? He says, think about Corey Perry. At the time he was a Duck. He says, Corey Perry after a game can go out, have a coffee, and he won't be bothered at all. And he can go to the beach. He says in Montreal, you're going to have swarms of people, both French and English, that are going to consistently badger you about the season. That's a pressure that not a lot of us want to go through. So that's just a personal story there. In terms of the taxes, if you have a good accountant, it's not that hard to evade with this whole myth around this whole tax bracket. You're only taxed for the games you play in that city. So games that are based on in the hometowns and other cities in the NHL are different. Canadians, it's a little higher. So for the all Canadian division, it'll hit them in their wallets a little bit harder than the American teams this year, but there's ways to go around that. So as tweeted by Alan Walsh, who's an agent in the NHL, players that play in Canada with filing taxes properly would pay the same amount of taxes as players that play in a state with no state tax. Now, how does this happen? Well, in Canada, we have what's called a retirement compensation agreement. So a player can defer, and now this, I wish I had visual aids for this, but a player can defer up to 50% of what he is earning in a given year. So that money is going into a refundable tax-free account, the 50% that's being deferred with the CRA, and 50% into a self-directed account where the player cannot touch the money. So every year, 50% the player pays the normal tax, and 50% that there is no tax at all. It goes into these accounts, and they're invested and they grow over time. So all tax-free. Whenever a player wants to collapse these accounts, they have to break all ties with Canada. When they break all ties with Canada, they can't live in Canada for about a year or two, a year and a half. So they can be living in the US or anywhere else in the world. Many European players have these RCAs. American players that played in Canada have them too. And even Canadian players have these RCAs as long as they break all their ties with Canada for 18 to 24 months. So a player like Milan Mihalik, who played for the Senators and the Leafs, had an RCA, and when he was done, he retired. He and his family moved to the Barbados for 2 years. He broke all his ties with Canada, and then he collapsed his RCA. So when you collapse the RCA, you pay a flat 25% tax and you get all your money. It's fast and quick. And then when you get all your money, you can move back into Canada. So that's how, when the whole state taxes thing it came out to be like a myth, there's ways around it. There's always ways around it. And I'm doing a thing right now, a project where I'm not evading taxes. That's a little different. I pay my taxes, but there's
don't want to implicate yourself here.
I'm very
You're not a financial advisor.
No.
Do you need me to edit that out?
No, it's okay. I'm paying the taxes I will need to pay, but there's always a way to get what you receive. And there's always a way of cutting ties and working a way around that. I'm still paying my taxes. Okay. I'm a good Canadian.
But I hope we didn't put you to sleep, Juju.
No, it's good.
No,
it's good.
kidding.
It's good. You might have to
it's
renew it
pretty
in a couple
interesting
of times.
stuff. It's pretty interesting stuff. I mean, the account's similar to like a 401k or something in the States, I think. Yeah. It's similar to like a Canadian RRSP like we have. It's similar to a 401k in the States. But yeah, it's just a tax deferral thing. If you invest it properly, not like an idiot, you can grow it. And it's basically the government saying, hey, take this money, park it here, and it'll pay for a 2-year vacation for you and your family eventually, you can come back whenever you want. So, I mean, I think it's
nothing but growth. Like there's no losses if they dip into that. It's nothing but growth. They just can't take it out.
Well, they can't take it out. I mean, if you invest and you're a shitty investor,
but it doesn't. No, the RCAs, it's always growth. That's how I understood it.
I mean, that's impossible. No, it's just a.
Then why do it?
it's a type of holding account. It's so that you don't have, it's deferring your taxes. Same reason people do, the same reason they get a 401k and RSP. I don't know. Actually, I don't really know how 401ks work, but same reason the people in Canada do that. It's just to defer their taxes so they don't have to pay tax. That's
all I know is I have a 401k and hopefully, I don't know, it's still working.
Yeah,
exactly. It's just a type of account. You can pretty much do whatever you want within those accounts. You can invest in stock. You can keep it in cash. You can send it to the moon through AMC or whatever you want.
Welcome to the Faceoff Money Podcast.
Correct.
We do have face odds.
Money.
Okay, so
start off with the Money Mahomes type intro
yeah,
here.
That's exactly right. We're gonna be tossing bills around by the end of this.
But once we get that copyright on thick T-shirts, right?
Yes,
exactly
right.
Bust the slump with your
thicker than
t-shirts.
thicker than a bowl of oatmeal. That's what
dollar sign thick to the moon.
Julian, I know that Aris is now a Colorado fan, but in hockey, I know you're not a big hockey guy, but what's the team you kind of lean towards?
Well, you're not going to like the answer because we've already went over it a little bit.
We did.
Sorry. It's got to be the Bruins. Yeah, I knew
the Bruins.
I knew.
Because
that's right. Now I remember.
Podcast, guys. We'll see you later.
Yeah.
The way I see it. Okay, so I got these guys right here: Giants, Niners.
Yes.
I got the Celtics fan, which is a little bit of an oddity. I just got to bounce out 2 for Boston, 2 for the Bay. That's how I kind of think about it.
I remember the conversation now. Yes.
Yeah.
But I should clarify here. We're only going to be calling Aris from now on.
It is Aris, right? Did I say Aris? I thought I said Aris. What did I say?
We're just rolling with Aris now at this point. The fantasy Aristotle.
So it's Aris, not Aris. Yeah. Okay.
Wait, hold on. Which is it now?
It's Aris.
It's like the
Paris
sign,
without the P.
Okay.
The sign.
All right. Sorry, Aris.
No, it's all good. He's keeping up with those Colorado Avalanche. I assure you, he's been posting about them. But
Good stuff.
That's interesting, guys. And actually, that's kind of like the insight that I really wanted to have you guys on for, because I think not a lot of people really can know what a tax bracket is. People hear these terms thrown around on the mainstream media, and I myself kind of surface level, you hear one city has no state taxes versus another city, what you pay more. That's why I'm also curious, does that also affect a team you mentioned the Raptors, but obviously we had the Blue Jays. Maybe we'll get another team in Montreal for baseball too down the line. Who knows?
I hope.
Yeah, I think it's tough because, being the only team in Canada, you talk about baseball, and I was listening to a thing about George Springer. Shout out Houston coming all the way up to the Great White North. But as long as he doesn't bring that cheating shit over here.
As long as we win, it doesn't matter. MLB said it was cool. It's all right. We're going to tap garbage cans all day long. I don't care. Bring it.
Yeah, but anyway, he was talking about, obviously that was one of the big questions was, converting to the Canadian dollar, coming across the border, all that kind of stuff. And he said, honestly, and I really hope this is how most athletes look at it when just the Raptors in general, because the Raptors have a championship pedigree pretty recently. Kawhi left and he went back home, but that's an outlier. He said for years he wanted to go home. Anyway, what I was saying was he wasn't so much concerned about the border and the country and the currency, but he just wanted to come to a good team, right? So I think if the Raps and the Jays can have a really good team and really put out a good product, you hope that athletes have the proper mindset where they just want to win. Every now and then you'll get the outlier guy like Carmelo Anthony, who re-signed with the Knicks when they were a dumpster fire just because he wanted the money. You know what? I got to respect the guy for getting his bag, but at the same time, you hope athletes, and I guess it's just a Toronto thing with the Jays and the Raps. You just got to hope that they have the good mind and they want to come to a good franchise. And I think that's really the backbone of it all.